Jung's theory of archetypes. Have you ever wondered why certain stories seem to echo across cultures and centuries? Why we keep telling tales of heroes, wise mentors, tricksters, and rebirth, no matter the time or place? Why myths from ancient Greece resemble those of the Egyptians, the Hindus, the Mayans? Carl Jung believed it wasn't coincidence. He believed these patterns are not just in our stories, they're in us. Jung proposed something radical for his time, and still radical today, that beneath our personal unconscious lies something deeper. A shared foundation of psychological patterns he called the collective unconscious. To understand Jung's collective unconscious is to understand why we dream of symbols we've never seen. Why the same themes appear in fairy tales, religions and art all around the world. Why people who've never met, separated by continents and languages, seem to carry the same internal architecture. This is not something you're taught. It's something you're born with. Let's take a moment to imagine the mind like a vast landscape. The surface level, the part you're aware of, is the conscious mind. Thoughts, intentions, daily decisions. Just beneath it lies the personal unconscious, your memories, traumas, and forgotten experiences. But then beneath that, like a hidden bedrock, lies the collective unconscious, a realm of inherited psychological material. And in this realm live the archetypes. An archetype is not a character. It's not even an idea. It's a primordial pattern, a deep structure of the psyche that shapes how we perceive, feel, and behave. They're like ancient blueprints we carry within us, often without knowing. Think of the hero, the innocent child, the wise old man, the nurturing mother, the shadowy villain, the trickster, the lover, the savior, the destroyer. These are not just literary devices. According to Jung, they are archetypal energies, eternal and recurring forces that exist within every human being. They surface in stories, dreams, religions, and fantasies. They appear in movies, in video games, and Instagram memes. But most importantly, they appear in our lives. Jung would say, you are not making them up. They are living through you. Consider the story of a young person who leaves home, faces trials, encounters mentors and enemies, undergoes transformation, and returns stronger. This is the hero's journey. It's the story of Odysseus, of Moses, of Harry Potter, of Frodo, of Katniss Everdeen, and it's the story many of us unconsciously live. Not because we copy it, but because we're wired to. Jung saw archetypes not as fixed roles, but as psychic potentials. They activate in us depending on our circumstances. When you become a parent, the archetype of the mother or father awakens. When you feel betrayed, the shadow emerges. When you fall in love, the lover takes the stage. And when your world collapses, the hero is summoned to rebuild it. You don't need to be aware of this for it to be happening. That's the point. The archetypes are autonomous. They operate independently. You can feel them stirring in your emotions, your impulses, your dreams. And dreams, according to Jung, are the royal road to these hidden patterns. He didn't believe dreams were just random brain static or wish fulfillment, as Freud suggested. Jung thought dreams were messages from the unconscious, and particularly from the collective layer, revealing archetypes at play in our inner world. Let's say you dream of being chased by a dark figure. That's the shadow. You dream of an old woman handing you a key. That could be the wise woman archetype offering insight. You see a flood, perhaps the Great Mother, the chaotic force of nature and rebirth. What makes this extraordinary is that people across cultures report similar symbols, even when they've never been exposed to the same myths. Jung once analyzed dreams from patients who had never studied mythology, yet who dreamt of dragons, serpents, sun gods, and underworld journeys, symbols with deep mythological resonance. It led him to conclude that symbols are not learned, they are inherited, not through culture, but through the psyche itself. This is where Jung departs dramatically from most psychological theories. In modern psychology, the focus is often individual, your childhood, your environment, your choices. Jung says, yes, but also you are part of something older, bigger, more ancient than you realize. Let's pause here, because this idea has both awe-inspiring and terrifying implications. It means you're never truly alone, but it also means your life is shaped by forces you didn't choose. You might think you're just living your life, choosing freely, but behind the curtain, the archetypes are casting their influence. You meet someone and feel an instant connection. You're not just seeing them, you're projecting your anima or animus, your inner feminine or masculine ideal. You fall into depression and feel like descending into darkness. Perhaps it's the archetype of the night sea journey, or the death and rebirth motif awakening within you. And then there's the archetype of the self, the central organizing principle of the psyche. Not the ego, which wants to control and preserve, but the self, which seeks wholeness, integration, and growth, even at the cost of pain. The self pushes you toward individuation, toward the long, difficult process of unifying the persona, the shadow, the anima, animus, and the ego into something more whole. That's why transformation is never clean. You're not just becoming better, you're often breaking down, falling apart, losing who you were. Because the self doesn't care about comfort. It cares about integration, and the archetypes are its messengers. Now here's something Jung would insist on. Archetypes are not prescriptions. They're not rigid categories you must follow. They are patterns that help you make sense of your experience. They offer a map, not a prison. The moment you say, "I'm the hero," you risk becoming inflated. The moment you say, "I'm the victim," you risk disempowerment. Archetypes are not identities, they're energies. They come and go. What matters is not controlling them, but becoming conscious of them. Once you recognize them, you gain the ability to navigate your own inner myth. And that's the ultimate takeaway. You are living a myth, whether you know it or not. Jung believed modern humans were suffering not just from anxiety or depression, but from the loss of meaning, the absence of myth, the disconnection from symbolic life. We've become technological giants and spiritual infants. In past eras, myths were embedded in daily life. Rituals, stories, and symbols guided people through transition, trauma, love, death. Today we have data, but we are starving for symbolic nourishment. That's why Jung's work endures. Not because he offered easy answers, but because he restored the mystery of the psyche. He reminded us that deep down, beneath our schedules, our roles, our anxieties, something ancient stirs. And it's calling us, not just to live, but to awaken. So ask yourself, what myth are you living? And what archetype is calling you right now? Through your dreams, your fears, your longings. You don't have to believe in ancient gods or mysticism to feel it. All you have to do is listen. Curious minds never stop. Subscribe to keep exploring.